Floyd Mayweather or Canelo Alvarez, who deserves most credit if they win? Now, I had to do this video because I know for a fact that whoever wins this fight, there's going to be a lot of people online, a lot of boxing fans getting overexcited and getting carried away. That's what's going to happen. If Floyd beats Canelo, they're going to have all these Flomos coming out saying Floyd's the greatest of all time. Floyd's, amazing. He's this, that, and the other. Beating Canelo proves he's the greatest ever. And then if Canelo wins, you're going to have all these Canelo tards, I guess you would say. Canelo tards coming out saying Canelo's pound for pound number one. He destroyed Mayweather. And at the same time, paradoxically, people, let's say Floyd wins, people are also going to say Canelo was a hype job, Canelo's garbage, this, that, and the other. And if Canelo wins, some people are going to say, see, Floyd's a hype job, Floyd's rubbish, he's got no chin, he's overhyped, you know what I mean? This is what people are going to say. So I had to make this video to preempt this foolishness and actually put some perspective on the whole situation. Now, in terms of who deserves most credit for winning the fight, right? Whichever one of these guys wins the fight, who deserves most credit? Let's look at the facts, right? Canelo is pretty much a super middleweight, right? But he's draining himself to get down to 152. I mean, he drains himself to get down to 154, right? So he's draining himself to make junior middleweight regardless, but he's a super middleweight. So he's doing that specifically so he can have an advantage over smaller men like Floyd Mayweather. So if Canelo wins, okay, he's drained himself, but he's beating a much smaller man. I mean, Floyd is damn near 20 pounds naturally smaller than Canelo. That is not a small amount, people. That's a big amount. So if Canelo wins, he's beating a guy who is naturally 20 pounds smaller, a guy who is, 37 years old, a guy who is not even really a big puncher at welterweight, never mind junior middleweight. A guy who, yes, may be on pound for pound list, but pound for pound list is a theoretical. Pound for pound list is fantasy. It's not really, it's not real, right? There's no real way to gauge who is the best pound for pound fighter in boxing. There's no real way to gauge that. How do you gauge where a heavyweight should be on a pound for pound list? Because heavyweights have such huge difference in size. You see David Haye is like 210 pounds and he's taking on people like Tyson Fury who's 250 pounds. All right, the size differences are massive. So does Haye get more credit? I mean, Haye taking on Fury is probably like Floyd taking on a super middleweight or something like that. You get me? So it's very difficult. The pound for pound thing is theoretical. It's an abstract concept, right? So I'm not really a fan of pound for pound lists, to be honest with you. Occasionally I talk about, oh, this guy's pound for pound or that guy might be pound for pound, but in all honesty, I don't really take it all that serious. All right. But like I say, if Canelo wins the fight, let's put it in perspective. For me personally, it would be a good win. Yeah, it'd be a nice win. Definitely nice look on his resume, but he'd be beating a smaller guy, a much older guy, a guy who's not a puncher. That's the reality of it. Now, if Floyd wins, he'll be beating a guy he will have beaten a guy who's much younger than him. Right? So that's a plus point if Floyd wins. He'll be beating a guy who's much younger. He'll be beating a guy that's naturally bigger. He'll be beating a guy that's a puncher in his weight division. The only knock against Floyd I would have is that he'd be beating a guy that's drained. Yeah? It don't matter if this fight is at 154 or 152. He would not be beating a guy who is 100% at the weight class. Now, I'm not deliberately trying to take away from Floyd's victory if he wins. I'm just telling the truth. Canelo is damn near 20 pounds over the junior middleweight limit when he steps into the ring on fight night. And it don't matter which way you look at it, draining 20 pounds out of your body the day before fight. I mean, he doesn't do it all on the same day, obviously, but progressively, he drains himself down 20 pounds below his true fighting weight the day before fight and then rehydrates, 15, 20 pounds the day after. No matter which way you look at it, that is not healthy for your body. It's just not healthy for your body. All right. So long story short, who deserves most credit if they win this fight? In my opinion, Mayweather deserves most credit if he wins this fight. Now, again, like I said at the beginning of the video, if Mayweather does win, he deserves credit for this. But let's not get carried away. There's going to be people coming out saying, oh, this proves that Floyd's the greatest of all time. Oh my God. If you want to talk about the greatest fighters of all time, you can't talk about conjecture. You can't talk about speculation. If you want to talk about who's truly the greatest, you have to look at who they beat. You have to look at how many fights they had. You have to look at, all these different factors. You don't just look at their style in the ring and how easily they beat their opponents and say, okay, he's the greatest. He's undefeated. He's the greatest. He beat his opponents easily. He's the great. No. Who did he fight? Canelo Alvarez is undefeated, but look who he fought. All right. So people are going to be getting overexcited and going over the top and getting carried away, no matter who wins this fight. But, let's just say Floyd wins the fight. They're going to get carried away. Oh, this proves Floyd's the greatest. Beating Canelo Alvarez, like I said, is not the same as Sugar Ray Leonard beating Marvin Hagler. It's not the same. Are you trying to tell me that Canelo Alvarez is on the same level as Marvin Hagler? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Who has Floyd got on his resume that is on the same level as Marvin Hagler? Please tell me. And it don't matter whether you think that, Leonard won the fight or he didn't win the fight or this, that. He fought Marvin Hagler. I personally thought he won the fight. So it was close, but I thought he won it. I didn't think Hagler, worked hard enough. Who has Floyd got on his resume on Hagler's level? There's nobody. There's nobody. So you can speculate all you want about Floyd's style and this, that, and the other. That's all just pure speculation and it's meaningless. Your opinion about who you think Floyd might be able to beat is irrelevant. It don't mean anything. It's meaningless. And so is my opinion. It's also meaningless. It's just pure speculation. It's not based on anything tangible. What we can say for a fact is that Sugar Ray Leonard beating Marvin Hagler was a much better feat, a much greater feat than if Floyd beats Canelo. Marvin Hagler is a better name on your resume than anyone Floyd's ever faced. That is just a fact of life. And that's what I base greatness on who you've actually beat in your career. Forget about your record. Forget about how easy you deal with your opponents. Who did you beat? Marvin Hagler was the top guy at 160 pounds. Undisputed. He had all the belts. They talk about people like Pacquiao and Floyd being multi-weight world champions. These guys are not multi-weight world champions. All right? At least not in as many weight divisions as they're supposed to be. They might be multi-weight belt holders, but they ain't multi-weight world champions. There's only one world champion in every division. Yeah, there always has been. But they just invented belts to make some more money out of boxing. But back in the days of Sugar Ray Leonard, there was Sugar Ray Robinson, there was one champion per division and one belt per division. Nowadays, there's one true champion in the division, but multiple belts. So as guys like Pacquiao and Floyd have moved up through the weights, they've been picking up belts, but they ain't been taking on the champions every time. Nah. Was Margarito the light middleweight champion when Pacquiao fought him? Hell no. All right. Was Arturo Gatti the junior welterweight champion when Floyd fought him? Hell no. We all know that was Costa Zoo. Was Carlos Baldomir the champion when Floyd fought him at 147? Hell Hell no. We all know that Margarito and then Paul Williams were the top guys around at that time. And it don't matter if you think Floyd could beat those. It don't matter. That's speculation. You can't base a legacy on speculation, right? Ray Leonard fought the best of the best, apart from maybe, what's his name now? Aaron Pryor, right? At 147, he fought Tommy Hearns. Tommy Hearns everyone was scared to death of Tommy Hearns. Tell me someone on Floyd's resume that is on the level of Tommy Hearns. There's nobody. Tommy Hearns was 6'1", 78-inch reach, massive puncher, such a big puncher that he went up to cruiserweight and he was knocking out cruiserweights and light heavyweights. That's how big a puncher this guy was. Nobody wanted to fight Tommy Hearns. Even Leonard didn't want to fight Tommy Hearns at first. Right? Floyd ain't got no one on his resume even close to a prime Tommy Hearns. Not even close. Yeah, he ain't got no one on his resume like a Hagler. No one on his resume like Hearns. No one on his resume like Henry Armstrong. Right? We all know Ray Robinson beat a prime Henry Armstrong. Floyd ain't got no one in his resume like that. So if you want to say Floyd's the greatest, you're not basing it on anything real. You're not basing it on anything tangible. You're just basing it on your imagination. Yeah? I base greatness on reality, on who people have actually beat. I don't speculate, oh yeah, but Floyd didn't fight this guy, but he would have beat him anyway. That's bullshit, man. That's just pure speculation. No one knows for sure, for certain, what's going to happen in any boxing match until the two guys get in the ring. Boxing is an unpredictable sport. That's why we love it so much. Yeah? That's why we love it so much. You know, I don't base greatness on speculation. When Muhammad Ali, you know, was around in the 60s and 70s, he was the greatest. He proved himself to be the greatest of his era, at the very least. Why? Because he fought and beat everyone. We don't have to speculate about Ali's, oh yeah, but Ali didn't fight this guy, or he didn't fight that guy. No, we don't have to speculate with Ali. We know he was the greatest in his era because he fought and beat everyone. End of story. End of discussion. That's it. He was the greatest in his era. No, you can't say nothing about it. Can't say the same for Floyd. He ain't been taking on everyone. Now, whether you think he could beat them or not, again, it's irrelevant. You can't base greatness on speculation. Right? At least not that level of speculation. You're going to speculate to a certain extent, but you want to minimize the amount you speculate. All right? Floyd's resume just don't stack up against people like Ray Leonard, against people like Ray Robinson, against people like Roy Jones Jr. To be honest with you, there's a lot of people, and I'm one of those included. There's a lot of people who believe that Bernard Hopkins has a better resume than Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, Hopkins has got losses. But look at the level of competition. Look at the fact he's fighting younger guys, stronger guys, bigger guys, guys with longer arms. You know, it's one thing a lot of people don't talk about. It's that Floyd has got incredibly long arms. Floyd's arm length is 26 inches. 26-inch arms this guy's got. Incredible arm length. I don't believe there's anyone, correct me if I'm wrong, right? I know for a fact there's only one fighter on Floyd's entire career who had a longer reach than him, and that was Oscar De La Hoya. But that's reach, that's not arm length. Reach and arm length are two different things, if you don't know. Yeah? In terms of arm length, Floyd even had a longer arm length than Oscar De La Hoya. De La Hoya's arms, I believe, was 73 or 74 inches. And Floyd's is 76. Sorry, 26, not 76. Yeah, Oscar's arms, I believe, are 23 or 24 inches. And Floyd's arms were 26 inches. Yeah? So Floyd's pretty much got the reach advantage over most opponents he fights. You can't say the same for Ray Leonard. He fought plenty of guys that had longer reach than him. You know? Same goes for Roy Jones. He fought loads of guys that had longer arms than him. Genuinely bigger guys in their primes. You know, and so this ain't a Floyd hate or nothing like that. It's just putting it in perspective. Because right now, Floyd is the hottest property in boxing. He's an excellent fighter. Don't get it confused. I'm not saying Floyd is garbage or nothing like that. He's an excellent fighter. But people need to stop getting carried away. Stop getting carried away. Yeah? Floyd, as of yet, ain't got nothing in terms of his resume on people like Ray Leonard, Ray Robinson, even people like Muhammad Ali. And again, this multi-weight world champion business, what does it mean if you ain't really taking on the best of the best at the time? You know, Floyd fought the best in Corrales, right, when he was at super featherweight. And he fought the best in Castillo at, lightweight. Yeah? But since then, you know, he ain't been taking on all comers. He ain't been doing a Muhammad Ali. Now, I ain't saying it's not smart what Floyd's doing. At the end of the day, he don't want to end up like his Uncle Roger. Right? He don't want to end up like his Uncle Roger or, his dad. Can barely string a sentence together. So what Floyd is doing is smart. He's taking care of his health. He's maximizing his income while minimizing his risk, because Floyd knows as well as everyone knows that boxing, or everyone with sense knows, that boxing is a numbers game. If Floyd had 100 fights, 200 professional fights, he would have lost by now. That's just a fact of life. He ain't going to go undefeated for 200 fights if he was taking on everyone out there. You know? It's just not going to happen. There's going to be a style that comes along you can't deal with on the night. You know, you're going to get caught with random shots. You know, you call them lucky punches. Some people say there are no lucky punches, but it's a numbers game. You know, the longer he fights, the more fights he has, the more risk he's at of being caught one of those big shots and, tagged by someone that no one would expect him to lose to. That's how boxing goes. It's a numbers game. So Floyd has done a very smart thing by keeping for the amount of time Floyd has been professional, he's had very few fights. Right? He's been professional, 15 years or 17 years or something like that, 18 years? And he's only had, 45 or whatever he is now, 44, 45 fights? Very few fights for someone that's been professional that long. Yeah? So boxing is a numbers game. But anyway, it's a very long-winded video. And like I say, the same goes, I think I've explained about Canelo anyway. You know, if Canelo does win, like I say, he's beating a little guy. He's beating a guy that's 37. So me personally, if Canelo wins, I won't put him as number one pound for pound right now. Even though I'm not a big fan of pound for pound lists, if I did have to make one, I wouldn't put Canelo as number one pound for pound. You know, if he wins this fight. But, all right, I'm not really contradicting myself because I've explained. If Floyd wins this fight, I think you can make a case for him being number one pound for pound. All right, there's a lot of people who have him a pound for pound now, but I don't care what the mainstream says, because the mainstream are just like sheep. They just go along with what everyone else says, what the writers say and all this guy. I don't care. I cut beyond the hype, because all big fighters are surrounded by hype. Floyd is surrounded by hype. Canelo is surrounded by hype. Even fighters in the past are surrounded by hype. Muhammad Ali, Tyson, pretty much all fighters, all famous fighters are surrounded by hype. And what I try and do is cut through the hype and deal with the truth and the actual fact, the reality underneath the hype. That's what I try and do. Yeah? So, if Floyd wins, you can make a case for him being the number one pound for pound. Who else is the number one pound for pound in terms of what they're... I mean, and here's the thing about pound for pound. It depends on how you judge pound for pound lists. When it comes to me, when I look at a pound for pound list, it's a fluid list. It's not based on just your career achievements. It's more based on what you've done over the last couple years, 2-3 years, who you've beat over the last 2-3 years. Now, over the last 2-3 years, Floyd ain't beat anyone, to be honest with you, that, in my opinion, should make him number one pound for pound. In terms of Floyd's career overall, maybe you could make a case for him being, number one pound for pound, especially if he beats Alvarez. But in terms of who he's beat over the last few years, really? I mean, to me, the most impressive victory I've seen in boxing over the last couple years was Rigondeaux beating Donaire. That was tremendous. That was a tremendous victory. You know, Donaire was a naturally bigger guy, a big puncher, and Donaire's a good fighter. People want to rubbish Donaire and hype job and all this kind of stuff. No, he ain't no hype job. Donaire was icing people. Donaire showed skills. Yeah, he was an excellent fighter, and he'll go on to do excellent things in boxing. Trust me. But Rigondeaux was so good, so skillful, that he took on a bigger, stronger man. Right, even though Donaire was moving up, we all know Donaire was the bigger man in that fight. That's why Donaire moving up in weight now. Big puncher. A lot of people didn't think Rigondeaux would win, but Rigondeaux's skills, the performance, breathtaking. I was blown away. You know, that's the most impressive performance to me over the last few years is Rigondeaux beating Donaire. You know, so if I had to do a pound for pound list right now, based on their performances over the last few years, Rigondeaux would be my #1 pound for pound. Because this guy came along and he's already world champion in what, 12 fights? Who the hell does that? That's an incredible achievement in itself. People talk about Rigondeaux's amateur career. A lot of guys have had amazing amateur careers, but they don't become world champion in 12 fights. Yeah, that don't happen. Loads of guys have had, you know, huge amateur careers. Right? You look at heavyweights of the past, Jorge Luis Gonzalez, who was also Cuban like Rigondeaux. He had hundreds of amateur fights. He turned pro. He wasn't world champion. You know? Loads of fighters have had massive amateur careers. It don't always translate over to the pros. But Rigondeaux, this guy's talent level is off the page. Off the page. And winning a world title after, 10, 11 fights or whatever it was, incredible. Then beating Donaire the way he did, he dominated Donaire. He busts up his... Come on, man. Anyway, let me not get carried away. But based on performances over the last couple years, I would put Rigondeaux top ahead of Andre Ward and ahead of Floyd Mayweather. Based on the last couple years. Not based on his career as a whole. That's a whole different thing. If you're talking about basing fighters... if you're talking about basing a pound for pound on fighters' careers as a whole, then we have to bring in Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones Jr. then. Because they're still fighting now. You look at their careers as a whole and who they beat, their resumes are incredible. Incredible. All right. So, yeah, anyway, long ass video. I know. Took a long time to make my point. Procrastinated a lot. I know. It is what it is. Hopefully some of you saw it through to the end. So, yeah, hit me up in the comment section. I'm sure a lot of people got a lot to say about this. I just wanted to keep some perspective on the situation before people lose their minds after the fight. Because that's what's going to happen. People are going to lose their minds. Yeah, I don't like to lose my mind. I like to keep things in perspective. Yeah? Hit me up in the comments. This is Hatman. I'm out.